You guys remember the Syrian chemical weapons hoax, which helped us to obliterate Syria, put 94% of all their people under the poverty line, just absolutely destroy their society. It was these two or three moments where we said, oh, Assad used chemical weapons. And yet we saw, as people actually were able to start doing some investigation, that it was all bullshit. There were 4 separate whistleblowers at the OPCW, which is the global organization for chemical weapons. And they said that their findings were changed, that the OPCW was, trying to cover it up, that this was not an Assad chemical weapons attack. Anyway, one of them, the main one, has now put out a book. By the way, they were all like fired or pushed out as they said that.
And the organization is like disbanded now, right? Or something major happened to it, right?
I didn't follow that. Did it disband?
I'm probably wrong.
I know.
Maybe it was defunded or something.
I know it lost all of its credibility, so maybe that's what happened.
Yeah.
But anyway, I noticed that he came out with this book. It's called The Syria Scam, an insider look into chemical weapons, geopolitics, and the fog of war. And he went by Inspector A, because when they write these reports, I think their names are intentionally not on them, so they can't be pressured. He has put out a book on the fact that this was a scam. He says I'll have to read the book, obviously, but he says in the subtitle there, The Fog of War. To me, this was no fog of war. To me, this was a carefully set up plot so that the United States and other countries, Britain specifically, could begin more clearly bombing Syria, more clearly attacking Syria with sanctions, etc.
Red line.
Yeah, the big red line that Obama announced. Our destruction of Syria has a lot to do with the global reserve currency. Syria, and yeah, there's a lot to do with Israel as well, but Syria is one of the few countries that both has or had a lot of oil and was outside or eventually dropped the dollar in oil proceedings. And I think they dropped the dollar in the 90s, like 96 or something. And so if the U.S. were to keep, in order for the U.S. to keep the petrodollar strong, you can't have tons of oil being shipped around the world outside of dollars. If that happens, your dollar becomes meaningless, at least as a global reserve currency. So they needed all of the oil to continue to be shipped under dollars. In order to do that, they had to basically destroy the societies of countries with a lot of oil outside the dollar. Well, which ones are those? Let's see. Syria, Iraq, Libya. Any of these sound familiar? And Iran and Venezuela are the other big ones. Of the two that still remain, at least in the way they remain existent in the way they were 10 and 20 years ago, do we view them positively, Iran and Venezuela? Do we seem to have some sort of bizarre hatred of them as if they slept with our girlfriend or something?
All countries that were coincidentally starved of democracy and was really craving it.
Yes, and so we dropped a little bit of democracy on their heads. Anyway, there's a connection here between this scam, chemical weapons scam in Syria, and I have yet to hear anyone make that connection. But because you're not allowed to talk about this stuff. I mean, it might be one of the reasons that I'm ridiculously suppressed. But
yeah.